Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Pete and this is a 5-minute Bags of Action review of the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard from 2021. Not the easiest title to say. The bodyguard, Michael Bryce, continues his friendship with assassin Darius Kincaid as they try to save Darius's wife, Sonia. So this is a sequel to the Hitman's Bodyguard, and director Patrick Hughes is back in the chair, having directed the original. He also helmed the Expendables 3 and Red Hill, and apparently he's attached to the remake of The Raid as well. The original writer, Tom O'Connor, is out of this one, and he's been replaced by, I assume, are brothers, Philip Murphy and Brandon Murphy, who have no prior writing credits. The main cast is back, so you've got Ryan Reynolds as Bryce and Samuel L. Jackson as Kincaid and Salma Hayek as Darius's wife, Sonia. There's a new threat this time from Antonio Banderas, who is inexplicably playing a Greek character, which again, I guess if you're maybe an American audience, maybe you wouldn't notice the difference between Spanish, Mexican, Greek, but when he's playing alongside Salma Hayek, it really doesn't make sense that he's a Greek character, and it feels a little bit like stunt casting, like, oh, they were in Desperado together, let's put them back together here, ticking something off a list of things they wanted to do. Some other heavyweights are in here as well. Frank Grillo and also Morgan Freeman makes an appearance, and there are a few characters from the first film that pop up for brief moments too. Now, I only have a vague recollection of the first Hitman's Bodyguard movie, but I do remember that it was a well-crafted action sequences, and it used some well-worn buddy cop style comedy bickering between the two leads, who then ultimately became friends. You know, we've seen it all before in 48 Hours, lots of Shane Black movies, and similar things like Bad Boys and everything since. Now, it was all helped along by the charm of those two leads, and putting Reynolds and Jackson on the screen together, it didn't present any surprises in the first film, but it did create something that was all right. It was an enjoyable kind of pizza and a beer kind of movie, competent piece of action comedy at least. But something has changed between how that first film worked and the second one here. And I don't know if it's because of the change of writer, or maybe just that film was kind of a breakout sleeper hit, and then they just felt they had to do more. Now, they did two key things that I think affected the quality of this film. Firstly, they turned everything up to 11. The set pieces are breathtaking at times, but you literally have seconds to take on board what has happened, be that an explosion, a shootout, or a plot point, even more importantly. This feels like it was made for a teenage phone addict with an attention span that makes a goldfish seem like an elephant. The story moves at such breakneck pace, it's easy to feel confused, even though there isn't actually that much to think about story-wise. It reminded me a bit when I did GCSE drama and we improvised, which meant usually running around fighting and shouting at each other. But I don't expect a big movie to feel like me trying to pass my exams as a teenager. Now, the second thing they did was lose what really worked in the first film, that Reynolds and Jackson dynamic, them being thrown together and pushing back against each other until they end up kind of working together. Salma Hayek dominates this film. Her shouty, sweary, unhinged role works best in small doses, but here she is front and centre, and it means the central relationship from the first movie is pushed to the B or maybe even the C plot of this film. Now, in fairness to her, taking a role where the camera lingers on your ample bosom so much that becomes a plot point is a confident step, but it makes the whole thing a little bit off kilter. It feels like her movie and the other two are along for the ride, which is just very different from the first film. At times, it almost felt like AI wrote this movie. We want Frank Grillo in it. There we go. We want Morgan Freeman in it. We want some nods to the first one. We want to give the wife a bigger role. But nothing really pays off here. There's no emotional investment in the characters whatsoever. And despite the extreme pace and the almost ADHD style of editing, it's more annoying than it is exhilarating. The scripting decisions throughout had me scratching my head and wondering what those involved were smoking. Now, the other day, I overdid my caffeine intake in order to do a long drive late at night. I had 2 black Americano coffees, 2 teas, a Pepsi Max, and finally a can of Monster. Now, that left me with tingly pins and needles in my face, and I couldn't stop rolling my lips back. I didn't quite know what was going on, and it was almost like an out-of-body experience. But it reminded me of something. It reminded me of watching this film. It's a very odd experience. The film may well be on cocaine. Now, the arch humour approach, which Reynolds is the king of, may now have just gone too far. And the modern action comedy, for me, is in really odd territory, where the comedy dominates and then the big set pieces. But the character stuff, which is what keeps you interested in a movie, has kind of been removed. Like Red Notice wasn't a great film, but it was more interesting than this. And Jumanji, for me, is still the high bar of recent action comedies because it's so polished and mainly much better written. Throughout this film's not particularly long runtime, I was just thinking, why? Why did this scene happen? Why did that happen? Why is that character in this film? What is the relevance of Frank Grillo's character? Why did the people agree to make this movie? Strange film that I struggled with and am struggling to even talk about. But having said that, the action in this film is really solid. And I think that for that reason and that reason alone, then the Hitman's wife's bodyguard is going to scrape 2 bags of action out of 5. Just by the skin of its teeth. Have you seen The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard? Do you agree with my assessment of it? Do you also think it's just gone too far? Feel free to comment below or get in touch with us via email, Facebook or on Twitter. We have new episodes coming out weekly alongside occasional full-length podcasts. Don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell to get notifications. Bags of Action will always be free. If you'd like to buy us a coffee, not too many, you can do that at our Ko-fi page.